All right. That was real exciting transition there. Having some technical difficulties, which, last week we started experiencing this a little bit, but last week we were also trying to bring a lot more people on. I don't know. We'll find out. So anyways, my daughter Sierra, who we're going to give the title of commissioner to, I wonder if she wants to just maybe repurpose Schmub and for this new... I told you about the football game, right?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah, and so what we're going to talk about during the second half here is we're going to continue just to try to really figure out, what it is we're trying to say for Thursday Night Social, and ultimately what the vision is, we want this to be more like last week where we had a lot more people talking and a good community discussion going on, but, we may try to do something like a Twitter space, but we'd like to make it a little bit more social like this where you're coming on. We'll probably have to play with really the way that the screens work, and maybe that's one of the changes itself is more along the lines of like you're growing like a Brady Bunch screen or something, and maybe we kind of shape out, or we'll figure something out. But anyways, tonight the title of this episode again was the A League Above. Was that what this one's called?
New League.
New League. And the inspiration for that is because the USFL Football League is going to be starting up again. I think they played, in 1983, I believe, is when Kelly played for the Gamblers, I believe, somewhere back then. Anyways, they're starting back up. I think they have 8 teams. Interesting thing is that they're going to play all of the games at the same stadium.
Oh, interesting.
So, I get it. It keeps the cost down. But, somebody brought up online, you're not going to get any real local support for it. So it'll be interesting, right? You're not going to get you're not going to necessarily get your local fans to get out there and be really engaged. So, anyways, we've been working on a game, a crypto game that would be sort of a social crypto game that would be played during football games. And I would like to actually speak to somebody at the USFL and, maybe work with them, because maybe we could create a way of creating your local engagement while your team is playing, right? You can get some people who have specific responsibilities, and not going to get into all of the specifics of that game, but we have 100 days, USFL. I've tried to reach you on your Facebook page. I've tried to reach you through Twitter, and now through this massive broadcast that 3 people watch, we are trying to once again get a hold of you, and you have no idea just how much of a difference this single game could make to your brand. And neither do I, frankly. I just think it's a good idea, and it's something kind of fun. But, so talking about this, going back to the conversation that began earlier, and when we talk about football and the idea that the brand, the purpose of a brand, if you will, is to create a desire to give your mind space to it, right?
Right.
Kind of ugly. It can that kind of thing, because all the psychoanalysis that goes on with that. Now, how deep it goes and how twisted things can get with a brand, and when we're vying for what is probably one of the most important aspects for your health, like your presence of mind. Right. I was with Mike Willage the other day, and he used this phrase, he's like, you gotta let your mind breathe. And right now, we have so much media and everything else going on, and it's not necessarily always the brand that consumes you. It could be the channel that consumes you. It could be the topic that consumes you. And either way, we have to kind of create something a little bit more healthy. And we use the Ceox segment to talk about gameplay, because that's a big part of what you'll see in cryptocurrencies. You talk about game theory. So we talk about that. We last year we kind of set that against the backdrop of the Buffalo Bills and following a championship team and what it really took to be champions. And that journey still isn't done. We'll see how that finishes out. It's looking pretty good right now. It wasn't looking so great a few weeks ago, but that's what that is all about. So this segment, we look at what it means to be like a champion in your own life. And the Ceox segment is really about well-being in the marketplace. So maybe that's the answer to our, maybe that's what belongs here. To connect with the BSV community and those in the marketplace who want for their own, or want
for their own better well-being.
Yeah, like
betterment of
for well-being.
Their want for well-being and like others' well-being.
Well, that's just to me. I'm like just well-being. Like it's just like you self-identify as that or something like that.
Yep.
And those in the marketplace who, like, I almost want to say peddle well-being, but I don't like peddle well-being. Seek well-being for well-being, whatever. So we'll work on that kind of thing. But that's kind of like what. Yeah, we'll make that objective a lot more clearer, but that's who we're kind of be targeting. But that's what this segment is about. And Ceox's segment, or Ceox, it's interesting. We call these series in the system.
Yeah.
I think that might be misnamed a bit, but because really they're just yet another brand, right? I mean, the Ceox is really just a brand. It's a caricature that I'm living out. Anyways, I'm going to develop out a lot more of that outside of Thursday Night Social. With like Bruce Corbett, we're going to do the economic, the Austrian economic kind of review this year, and we're going to be tuning that in as a series throughout the year, and we'll play some of those segments here on Thursday nights at this during this time. So yeah, this is gameplay, well-being, and I think so definitely. I guess what I need to put here, it's mental health, like that's really what I think a part of.
Mental breaks and mental health.
Create an environment of well-being.
Yeah, I think that
actually that might be a good, like, something like that is like in those in the marketplace who will work together to create an environment of well-being. Right. That's probably a pretty good, like, clear idea. Like, that's who we want. We want people who want to work together, not for the sake of righteousness and self-righteousness and going over the fighting what is best and what is wrong. Like, if we disagree on a point, we can still care for one another as humans. And, like, look, you want to build on Ethereum right now, build on Ethereum, but we can still talk about how to bring well-being into the marketplace. We can still talk about how economics can, better work with one another or for one another, and we can figure out how to work even where our, disagreements will lie. But generally speaking, if we're looking for people who want to create an environment of well-being, and, that would mean a state of well-being for yourself, creating that healthy headspace. So that's kind of what the second segment's all about. And again, tonight, if it looks like Sierra is back in, I don't know if we can. Well, we see her back in.
We see. I've seen her show up.
Okay, and now
it's just very quiet, so I'm like putting my ear up to the speaker on the bottom of my phone, and I'm covering up the camera.
I just don't understand why it's so quiet.
I don't know. It works with a video, so it might just be this platform on my phone now. Maybe there's like an update to the phone that doesn't support the platform anymore.
Well, they just did an update. I think it was it last week we noticed they did an update? Did you notice something last week as well, or?
I wasn't on last week.
That's right.
Right, so, but we had a lot of other issues last week.
Yeah, I did notice that there was I think there was an update to their platform. I wonder if they went too far with their update.
Maybe, because like even every time I would try to turn the camera, like there's a little feature that allows me to turn the camera off. It closes me out of this platform.
That is interesting, because that definitely does start to sound like
maybe they went too far with their changes or something, screwed something up.
Well, yeah, it might be my phone in particular. Maybe it's something with the iOS.
No, we did notice it last week, but last week we also at times had quite a few people more on, and that was and that was the first time we had that many on at one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely have to look into this. I mean, one of the things I'm thinking we might want to talk about and really even explore further is somehow turning this into a Twitter space, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are fun.
What's that?
Those are good. The Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, and I mean at that point there's got to be like we could probably send our stream out to Twitter.
Yeah.
That way we could be because that's audio only, and there's probably no reason to think that we couldn't have people doing that, and then you could probably join us through Twitter. We'd have to bring her in.
Hey,
Yeah.
Sierra,
Yeah.
can you go to our Discord?
Yeah. Oh, that's what it's called. I have to go. Yeah. Hold on. It's gonna close me off this. So
Yep, that's
hold on.
fine. Go ahead and close off that. So continue, and I'll do my work.
All right, so this is where Tim has to jump in and be producer, and I have to kind of just fill the gaps for a little bit, and that's okay. That's actually one of those things that
I'll cover the first 15 minutes of Maverick IO.
Okay. Yeah. So that goes back to that performance thing. I think there's a time and a place that we do have to perform, and sometimes we're given those skills and we get to jump up on the stage called Marketplace and do their thing. And I am but a man, a journeyman entrepreneur on this stage called Marketplace, and I get it. Like people may be tuning in right now, going, "What are we really tuning into?" And what you're tuning into is just real people trying to do real things. And we have fun with it. We're ourselves, and we try to be as real as we can be. And, that started out with Real Talk years ago. And I guess ultimately, it's an interesting thing, and I think about this, and we get into this idea of, creating a healthy environment and what that means, and having this idea of giving your mind room to breathe. I was reading something recently that really struck me. I need to go back and find it, but in the end, it came down to this. We very often have a real challenge being honest with ourselves.
So I deleted the app off my phone, so I don't have Discord anymore.
Oh, you can go to the website. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can create an invite for you that gets you right there.
So anyways, at the end of this, what it was just an explanation of what it really requires to get well, deep well, like getting past the hurts, getting past the scars, getting, and getting beyond all the lies that are told to you and all the lies that are, you tell to yourself, and even probably like those things that you've kind of just pushed down, like maybe those feelings that you never dealt with, and maybe at some point in time you just kind of felt like you couldn't be you and you had to close those down. And there's a place that, there's a reality that none of us get to be exactly. I mean, in many ways, if you have no faith and you just kind of feel that we are mammals, then we're just some sort of an animal at that point in time. And, we could act upon animal instincts, but we all know that humans are more than that, and so we choose not to. And once we choose not to, we sort of begin to accept that there are rules and ways that we have to act that are good for ourselves and one another. And so there's always going to be a place where you don't get to be 100% always you the way you want it to be, because ultimately that's just selfish and narcissistic, right? Like that's that piece of it where relationship sometimes requires that we get rid of those hard things. But that's the point is more along the lines of that somewhere as we're exploring those really deep things within ourselves is we actually have to get honest with ourselves. And that's a tough one. Because very often we tell ourselves stories over the years about how things should be or how things could be and how things might have been if we've only had done this or done that. And we create these stories and we go about living out these stories even if they're not the reality. And then we're holding on to these regrets. But when we go back to unwind those things, there are beliefs that we told ourselves at some point in time which aren't necessarily beliefs that you would hold on to today, or necessarily you might not believe the argument, the rationale that you gave yourself. So it's this idea of having to get really honest And it's not easy. Because we very often want to look for others to give us the justification of self. And we can't. You got to find that deeper. It's the whole bunch more to that. And are we hoping that she's going to?
She's actually on Discord now.
Okay, we're going to see how this goes.
Can you hear us, Sierra?
Okay, so we have to work through the audio on that side of things. So anyways, this is something we're working on, and in coming weeks, we're going to begin using our own platform for parts of the show. We're releasing that. It's, again, tonight's not about the platform, but we'll be using a little bit more of that. We'll see how much we can integrate. These are just sort of some more growing pains. We've been trying to use different technologies to host these Thursday night socials to see if we could handle more people.
Currently, so we would need her to unmute herself.
Oh, there we go.
We are.
Can you hear us?
Now you can turn your video on.
You can hear us.
Can you hear us better?
Yeah, I can hear you much better.
Much better.
Okay, so now you are more or less a
big yellow
Pac-Man
square
ghost that looks like a PlayStation handle.
Yeah, that's gonna be me tonight.
Okay, that works just.
I'll be here on voice.
That's just perfect.
So just so everybody knows, there's a Sierra behind there.
There's a Sierra.
Yeah.
There's a voice. Okay, so Sierra, from this day forward on Ceox, you are the commissioner.
Okay, I'm gonna change my photo so I have a photo. So I'm listening though.
Okay, so you've got to get your commissioner photo to represent you. And it's probably going to be Commissioner Sierra. And we have to kind of talk about, the gameplay. We've been working a lot on, we've talked about games and, how we have to build this stuff. And we're now to the point where we really need to kind of like, what's the not so nice saying? Drop a deuce or get out of the pot.
Before we end up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
Poop or get off the pot.
Yeah, that one exactly, right? Like,
Not the word poop.
yeah, exactly. right. So, so we had this game called Shmub that we've talked about a couple times, and now Justin and I are talking about this kind of game that you would play during the football game. And frankly, I think that that's even more up your alley. And I think that as a commissioner of a league, which we've, is what we've talked about for a while, I think it almost, I don't know, do we... Shmub was to make a mess, which it does work, but could we use Shmub for a football game?
I don't think so. I don't know. Does it make sense? I don't know.
I don't think it really makes sense, but so the end game of this, so the objective of this football game, right, is to consistently grow a bigger economy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's what the NFL does. That's what the football does. So the game is really going to be about beating your averages. That's actually the name I've been using. The working titles, Beat the Average.
Yeah.
And I was like, but then I got to think, I'm like, or do we just repurpose Shmub? But no, I think what we do, we keep Shmub, we make it a side game, and the two games can kind of compete together. But I'd like to give you the idea behind the game, and I understand right now somebody can go beat us to this game, and I know that, our attorneys who we have yet to put on retainer, so they're not our attorneys, so when we actually have quality legal advice available, which means we have to put up some fiat currency, I'm sure they would probably tell us you should not talk about this stuff before you have it legally protected, and I would say I 100% agree with you. But there is a rule that talks about once you create a piece of content and produce it, apparently in writing, that you by default have copyright.
It's sort of like the trademark. So the trademark has where if you actually put something with TM next to it, that actually says that first time you ever do that, you take a picture of it, you make sure it's timestamped. That gives you the official ownership of that, and then you register it. That's when you get the R circled, and that's a registered trademark.
Okay. So basically, since we know that like probably about 3 million people are watching right now, what we're about to share could be instantly taken, spread throughout Twitter, and we could lose this idea. So what I'm going to say
It's like
right
every
now
other
is
idea out there.
I'm going to take a picture of this.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, now,
Yeah.
so, you see, we're joking around here, but so I want to share the idea with you, and if somebody takes it and runs with it, good for you. But here it is. You basically, as the commissioner, your job is to go get some quartermasters, right? A quartermaster's job is to input statistics before the next quarter begins.
You know, you're repurposing the word quartermaster, though. In the Army, that's like a logistics person.
Well, this is sort of a logistics person.
Okay.
Right? Because what you're going to have are players, right? And it's a fantasy league. So what I guess we could probably come up with the players, or we need a better, like, I don't know what the, when you
I mean, why don't you just keep it with the keeping of football, general manager.
General manager. Which would be what? That would be the, if you're the commissioner of the league, there will be quartermasters, and then there will be also people, and a quartermaster can also play this role, but they will have a fantasy team.
Okay.
So the general manager, I guess, could be the fantasy team, because the general manager is supposed to be put on, supposed to help find the talent that can become their best kind of thing. And what the game is effectively is that you're always trying to build your roster around what you think your players' averages will be, or like on path to their average throughout the game, right? So
if I think the running back's gonna get 4.1 yards per carry.
Right, exactly. Like, I think they're going to get 85 yards. Well, let's use easy numbers. All right, like, I think they're going to get 100 yards. They normally only get 50 yards. So I'm betting on a 100% improvement, right? Now, I'm probably, when I'm going wild with that, like, it's probably not going to happen. So what we're going to do is have people select, the GMs then would set what they think their players are going to score in setting up that they're beating their average. And how you actually win this is who most accurately predicts how much their team will beat their own average by.
How much their own team will be. Okay, so I've established that I think the running back's going to average 4 yards a carry, but I think he's going to beat it by a half a yard?
Yeah. So what is that? So that's going to be a half a yard, and 4 yards is what, 20%? No.
12%.
12%. 12.5%.
Different than like gambling. You know what I mean? Like, I know that you're putting, that's like saying like, oh, I'm going to bet the over under at 55 points for the game or something like that.
Right. Exactly.
But you're personally, like, you're the one doing it.
Right. You're setting, exactly right. You're setting what you think your team.
It's a different version of
it. It's interesting. So you're only playing against yourself then?
Well, not really. You'll be playing against somebody else each week, right? And the winner is the one which most accurately gets their average right. That most accurately beats their average. We could do it as whichever one most substantially beats the average, but I liked the idea of most accurately because it really was demonstrating an understanding of the game, if you will.
Okay.
So I was thinking that, so you basically create a score that's based on, and again, we could play with the algorithm aspect of it right there.
And you could even do the seasonal style where you actually have like teams, and teams go head to head, and then the winners of the teams progress through.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's a season-long thing.
Yeah, okay.
And what's happening, so the quartermasters, throughout the game, quartermasters sort of agree to, and anybody can kind of sort of self-select to be a quartermaster, or we can play with, like, how do you become one, whatever. That might be a GM thing, or maybe it's a commissioner thing, whatever. But a quartermaster, all they really do is throughout the quarter, they're putting in statistics, right? And those statistics are being fed to the game so that you can actually see, like, scoring in real time, if you will.
Okay.
All right. And so that you're bringing some excitement to it. When the quartermasters are doing that, they're actually going to be creating an NFT, and any interaction with that NFT would actually create transactional currencies that could also be shared. So all of what we're doing here is driving a transactional economy under all of this. And we base our rewards on beating the average, so and making sure that we're always 50 on the 51%, right? So we're turning the odds over in favor of the players always. So you actually then are creating a currency through what it is you're doing. Couple other little things that we talked about adding to this. Since you're going to have quartermasters and people wearing or watching this, what you could do is have things like bad call ref, and it's a button that basically time marks the game that you were in. You kind of highlight what that bad call was, even if it's just via text. And, maybe you could add a link to the video later, but everybody who's watching that game is going to know what that call's about, and you could go from it. And whoever puts out that bad call ref first is going to start getting more interactions on that bad call ref, and we can actually build out the bad call ref kind of to make it fun. And wait, there was one other little piece to it. Oh, maybe that's where we bring in the shmub, is we can say, like, somebody really made a mess of this, and you actually assign a shmub to it.
You're a shmub ref.
You shmub the call ref.
Yeah. Maybe we can use it there. So
what a shmub.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the game idea?
I'm just like, I think maybe I just have a little bit of it's not a bias. That's probably the right word, but that's what keeps coming to mind, is just because I keep thinking of it like it's obviously very interactive. I think I'm having a hard time differentiating it from just like generic gambling, because like real time, I know the difference. I think the biggest difference is that like you, the individual, you, the gamer, you, the player, develop the lines essentially based off these averages that you've come up with.
You put the odds in the player's favor.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing, right, and this is, it's funny, Tim and I were sort of talking about a little bit different angle on this tonight, but the closer you get to understanding how you have to create an economy, you start to understand, and this is where it's really sad, and people don't like to hear this, but our entire banking system is a game stacked in favor of a very small percentage. And one of the most visited cities in America is a city built on, gambling that is more stacked in the favor of the player than anything banking will ever give you, but still never more than, 49.9%, right? Like, until you get into a game of skill, like poker, and I believe poker is the only game of skill out there. Right. Anyways, the only big name.
One of the few, yeah.
Yeah, like, so, like, that's a game of skill. So poker the player can put the odds in their favor, but they're playing against other players, so the house still doesn't lose out there. And then, so the real thing is like, no, people don't have to lose. Like, playing something doesn't have to be a gamble which causes you to lose. And what we're seeing right now across the board are numbers of games that they're calling play to earn. People are playing games and earning money. And why not?
Yeah.
Not gambling. So anyways, I have now, we need to do a full-on press now to the USFL. So I'm going to ask you as the commissioner to get involved at this point and help us find the person within the USFL that we need to speak to about this. And
well, that's tough. Let's see.
yeah, I've Facebooked the USFL, I've Twittered the USFL, and I've said, like, hey, I want to speak to whoever we'd want to talk to about licensing. And I'm thinking it's probably not necessarily licensing that we want to talk to. It's probably more their marketing department.
Yeah.
But so one of the things that's going on, the USFL is launching this year, and they've got like 8 teams. All of the
man.
What?
Okay. The USFL or the XFL?
USFL. The old Jim Kelly stomping grounds.
I'm trying to look right now to see who are the big wigs that, because I was just thinking, there's a guy named Jim Monis who was like the director of player personnel, who was a Buffalo Bills director of player personnel when he was with when Doug Whaley was the GM. But I thought he was USFL, but he is XFL. So that's and he's like, this guy's like a really big gambler, but he seems like a pretty like approachable person. So, but he works for the XFL, not the USFL. So disregard what I just said.
Okay, but yes, if we can, we need to get in the USFL as soon as we can. I think it'd be fun to have a pilot version of this game for their season, but we only have 100 days. Right, they kick off in 100 days. But here's what I think we can bring to the USFL: local fan engagement. Right. First thing is they need, as a brand, they need to reach people differently than the NFL reach. I mean, the same way the NFL reach them, but also differently. Right, and they need something that'll kind of stand out. And I think a little game like this would help them to engage the fans, right? You've got the Houston Gamblers, and I can't remember where they're playing all their games. Maybe it was Tennessee, I don't remember. But you've got these 8 cities that have teams in them, but the teams aren't playing at home. They're all playing at this one stadium someplace else. All the games are being played in one stadium. So they need a way of engaging the local teams, and this would literally be a way of them investing in their community in the same way that cryptocurrencies are being invested elsewhere. They could actually use their brand in their league. They could improve fan engagement and community engagement while having a fun game. And, it would be a good kind of test for us to launch the game there.
Have you tried this woman, Nancy McDonald, who went to Syracuse University but lives in Charlotte, North Carolina right now? She is the brand marketing executive for the USFL.
No, I have not. So why don't Commissioner Sierra make it happen? Look, I offered to say henceforth forward on Ceox, you are commissioner. You did not say nigh, so therefore you are the commissioner.
Okay, what if you do a little bit of the work and type me the message I need to send so I can just forward it?
You sound so much like...
Oh my goodness.
Like, how so hard? Like, I meant to talk to you. Send her the link. No, I don't know. Yeah, no, I will. I'll send something like that. Like, I wrote, like I said, something to them.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't even really know what we'd be talking to them about, but I do think we could build something kind of fun.
I'm going to connect with her on LinkedIn. Hold on.
Okay. This is important. Because this is, now, this is going to happen. USFL, 100 days. I don't know.
I don't even know. Where's USFL going to be based out of?
I don't know. I guess I wanted to say Texas. I'm not quite certain. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Anyway,
right,
so we'll go.
That's our little football game thing that we have to kind of move on. But let's, okay, we got a few minutes left. Okay, so we started Ceox last year. And, the idea we were going to follow, what it takes to be a champion. And right now, you know what? Frankly, the Buffalo Bills are looking pretty good to make their run.
I mean, I hope so. I hope they put it together right now. Mostly, okay, so if the Bills can't put it together, then what I desperately need is for the Patriots to not put it together. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping, like, I really think part of the Bills' issues this year, as I think the Bills have had some home games that have just been awful weather, just terrible. And which probably play. I don't know if you look at the statistics on Josh Allen, he has performed much better on the road this year than he has at home, which is interesting. So with that said, the Bills are playing this weekend to at least host at least one playoff game. If they win the division on Sunday, then they'll host wild card weekend and probably host the Patriots.
And that'll be the first that'll be the first playoff in like 20 years, right?
At home?
Yeah.
No, they played last year at home, remember?
Oh no, I didn't.
Remember last year they played the Colts when we were in Bluffton? That's where we watched it.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then but this will what the thing is that this will be the first time I think since 1995 if they win at home this weekend that they will have clinched the division at home.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are those fun statistics that when you look at over periods of time really show you a trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Right now we're looking at Sean McDermott being tied only with Marv Levy for 4 playoffs in their first 5 years. We're looking at Josh Allen literally creating new statistics, right? It's the only quarterback to have something like 100 passes and 20 plus rushing touchdowns. I don't remember the specific thing, but like no other quarterback has done this. We have a quarterback who's literally, like, I know that people don't want to see Josh out there running and taking those shots with his body, but frankly, if he can beat him with his feet right now, they're going to have to respect that for many, many years to come, and he's going to have many years to just sit in the pocket and become elite level quarterback. And I have a theory. I think Josh set his goals on being in a league of his own. Right? I think just like Brady, he set him for himself that he was going to be the top of the top. And when we look at what he did to get to where he is, I mean, literally having to go shop himself through college, prove himself time and time again, and now on the greatest stage that exists for the profession that he's chosen, he's aligned with people who are setting, who are matching statistics of championships teams, setting new standards for future, quarterbacks to beat now. And I think they're finding their rhythm. Now, whether they can get it done
last week was a little messy. The last week was a little messy for Josh Allen, so I'm just hoping that he figures it out. Which hopefully last week was the last bad game he'll have until at least a Super Bowl.
And here's what we have to say. Let's hope your quarterback's bad games look like Josh Allen's last week.
Yeah. Well, Josh Allen threw 3 interceptions last week.
And
let's
ran
not pretend
for 2 touchdowns.
I get that.
That's kind of the thing we have to keep going back to is when it comes time, it's the championship thing. We talked about, we need to look at what it means to be champions. And right now, I'd have to say, statistically, on paper and on the field, they're proving they can get it done.
They can, but then it's also, here's the thing about the AFC this year is that it is wide open. It does not matter. The Chiefs can win it. The Bengals can win. Any of these teams can win it because I think they're all equally flawed as they are talented.
Yeah, I agree. In the end, I think the AFC's greatest challenge is going to be winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. All of the teams left in the AFC are equally, incredibly they're equally incredible and equally challenged.
So we've rewound to the 90s.
Exactly. Right. I mean, 'cause like it. I mean, if you think about it, like that's exactly right. Right. It's like we may literally be facing Dallas in the Super Bowl. Like, please.
In the end, all that matters is that you get hot at the right time. The team that beat the undefeated New England Patriots, you remember when the Patriots were undefeated in 2007?
Yeah.
There was a New York Giants team that was 10-6. They weren't any juggernaut by any means. It's just getting hot at the right time and playing your kind of game. So that's all that matters is just making it. And you know, in the end, it doesn't matter how you win it. You just win it. So.
And that's it. I think that's exactly it. And you know, I don't remember what the other statistic was and what really made me kind of get on this focus of like their own league or a league of their own or above the league. I saw a statistic talking about Ben Roethlisberger that was like this great thing. But then like they compared it to Brady and it was like Brady had just started his own category again with his statistics. And I think that, like you're saying, getting hot at the right time and, you know, bringing it all together, I think that I kind of look at Isaiah McKenzie as possibly like, okay, so what do the Bills do right? Maybe what McDermott does really well is tempers the team, right? Because, yeah, they had a bad spell there, and, yeah, McKenzie got put on the bench. Like, if you're not going to play, you're not going to play. And then all of a sudden, it's like, release the hounds. And I do think that, I don't know, I think it's going to be exciting. You're right. You never know what team is going to show up on any given week. The AFC has just been nuts this year.
Yep.
There's been, you can't say there's any dominance. You can't say that there's a ton of consistency necessarily, except for one, you know, there is some consistency on the Buffalo Bills, and that is that Josh Allen wants to win.
Yeah, I think that's something they all share is just like they want to win. So I think Stephon Diggs is like that too.
Yeah. Cole Beasley as well.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. I like Josh's fire. Sometimes I wish he would just chill. Sometimes, but I like his fire.
So one of the things when I was talking to Justin the other day, Justin was sort of saying that same thing. He said that like when Josh comes out and gets ready for a game, he kind of just sit there chill and he's listening. And Justin was saying he'd like to see him be, you know, more determined. Like he'd like to just see that kind of fire ready to go. And I'm thinking it's got to be there, right? Because he
did it. You know what? He did an interview with one of these networks the other day. And you know what he said he does before every game? So first off, when they're warming up, in his headphones, he has Frank Sinatra on. That's the kind of music he listens to calm his nerves. And then this was so gross. He said he goes into the locker room after they're done warming up and he pukes. Every single game. I'm like, that's so nasty. So I don't... If that's what you... He said it's a game ritual now.
Oh, jeez.
See, and there you go.
And that, like, the teammates, like, cheer him on.
That's funny. It's funny how... And so that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier while you guys were trying to... That's the idea. Ritual is the right word there. And
it sounds like a wrestling thing.
Well, it's the superstitious thing that we talk about. Like, you know, if we wear the wrong thing on game day, like, you know, like we say that those things don't impact us, but they do.
Yep.
They take brain space, right? They take actual, like, this is what I'm doing. I mean, not. I understand that that's not going and throwing up's not necessarily unhealthy. But it's certainly not the most healthy thing you'd ever do in life, right? Well, so there's that. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually think Josh might get too hyped up before games. So I know it seems like he comes off as a calm demeanor, but maybe he has to do that because I don't know if you noticed. Sometimes he'll come out and like just miss on passes left and right. So sometimes he probably just needs to chill out.
And yet he always brings his game. I mean, and we have seen that, right? We have this. Now this will come back to the coin toss because we have seen that the Bills sometimes challenge the first quarter. They kind of have to get into the second quarter to find their rhythm, and they've been a pretty decent third and fourth quarter team this year. But it's like sometimes you have to play the game all the way through, and that's an important piece. We were talking earlier about this idea of like you're constantly stopping and starting again, and it's not that, but it is something more along the lines of beginning ready to play.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, if that has to it would seem to me that has to play a significant role in his choice to defer when he wins the coin toss.
I think that's got to be a team
Sean
decision.
McDermott. I don't think that's a Josh Allen. I think that's Sean McDermott. That's his decision.
What I meant.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's an interesting thing.
Think he wants to. I think the reason he does that is because, one, he wants to put his defense on the field because he's a defensive guy. But I also think he wants the opportunity to have the ball at the end of the half and to get the ball at the beginning of the next half. And because they call that double dipping. If you can get a score at the end and not have to give up a possession and score in the second half, that's called double dipping.
I wonder what the statistics are on that. Like somebody right now, somebody knows the statistic of deferment
versus
to points.
Yeah. It'd be interesting.
That's
I don't know.
There's so many things about statistics. I gotta talk to Christian about this too. He's a fun guy.
I would also consider who's the quarterback they're playing. I feel like I was always so upset when the Bills deferred to the Patriots in this because it's like it's Tom Brady.
That's a good point too. Like, yeah, there's so many things that have to go into gameplay, like or game planning. That was something watching last week. I had a whole different way of looking at it. Why are they? Justin wanted to see him run coming out of the gate, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe they're trying to establish the run with the pass, and then they're maybe trying to establish the check down by going a little bit longer to kind of soften up the defense. I don't know that's what they were doing. I don't understand truly how to put together a good football game. I just know that you kind of have to know how to play your game well.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, that's what the Bills are, though. They're a passing team, so that's fine. And guess what? Like, the run worked last week, so whatever you got to do to get the win.
And they got it. And it's exciting. So, they win this week. It's AFC East. And when's the last time they won the AFC East?
Last year.
But they hadn't won it at home since 1995.
Correct.
So they get to celebrate with the home crowd.
Yep.
That's
and then
they
will host.
And
so
then
they will
if
host.
They win the next game, or is this the last game?
This is the last game of the regular season.
Oh, okay.
Next week is the playoffs.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Next week's the playoffs.
And then what do we have? 3 weeks of playoffs, 2 weeks and then 2 weeks after the last game of the Super Bowl?
Wild card, divisional race or divisional round, and then the AFC championship game. And then they have a week off, and then they do the Super Bowl. So in 5 weeks, basically.
And where's the Super Bowl?
Where's the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
And if the Buffalo Bills go to the Super Bowl, where will you be watching the game?
Probably here, considering it's a Sunday night and I'll have to work.
I figured you were going to go to Los Angeles.
I wish.
Even if it was just to like literally watch the game at a bar near the field, I figured you'd.
I know, wouldn't that be fun? If the Bills that'd be amazing.
That'd be fun stuff.
I would love that. Oh, I would love that.
All right, honey. Well, we have reached the hour that we end, and I appreciate you joining us, Miss Commissioner.
Welcome. Yes. I connected with the lady on whatchamacallit, so we'll see what happens.
Excellent. And are we all good with the name Beat the Average?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, and that'll end Ceox, huh?
Oh, yeah. So anybody who tuned in, thank you for watching. And that will end our week. Rather abrupt ending.
We'll come back in for 15 on
Oh, yeah. We're going to come back from Maverick.
So
Yep.
click
Okay.
on Maverick. We'll be right back.